Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Creators. I am Reverend Dr. Sherry Palace, and thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you are on Facebook, make sure that you log into StreamYard so I can see your name and know who I'm talking to. This week's show is on the Prosperity Doctrine, and I tried to get someone to represent it and come and justify this type of doctrine because I have questions. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, but unfortunately, out of my more than 30,000 social media followers, I was not able to find a single person to come on the air. So we're going to talk about it. We're not going to have a proponent for it tonight. That may not be necessary. It should have probably been necessary, though. I wanted to talk to someone about this. But we are going to talk about it, dissect it, and figure out where it originated and why it is still here. Remember that this is a safe space. You can support the show by logging on to sherrypalace.com. Or Cafe Press or the Patreon Fireside Creators. I have a few sponsors that help me. It's Ray, Michelle, Ruth, Kirsten, Heidi. You guys rock. You keep the panels going. You keep everything going. And I appreciate you more than you know. Most importantly, thanks for sitting here and watching. I appreciate you guys just giving me the time and the energy and the thought process to go through this show. One of our guests is having a problem logging in, so he's going to come in later. So I'm just going to bring Tim on. Tim Hammett, if you've been following the show, you've known him. He helped me get the show started, actually. He has earned his divinity degree and served in the Presbyterian ministry for over 20 years. He retired in 2001. In 2019, he retired from his Iowa National Guard, working for the Department of Defense. In the early 70s, Tim was drawn to groups who were critical of civil and ecclesiastical systems. However, he saw the same power dynamics across them all, leaving him to embody the Who's lyrics, "We won't get fooled again." Now at 67, he's returned to his first love, music, playing drums professionally since age 11. Welcome, Tim. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. We're having a mild Iowa winter so far. So,
Well,
knock
that's
on
good.
wood. Yes, it
Hi,
is.
Christine. Thanks for joining. So let me go ahead and unshare this. And while Ray is signing in, I'll just bring him on when he gets here. How did this prosperity doctrine start? Because everything I know and knew growing up and throughout my studies, it was leave your riches, give to the poor, no individualism, and now blessed has taken over. That God only blesses those who follow the prosperity doctrine or something to that effect. I don't get it. I don't understand how anyone could justify this. It reminds me of right out of the parasitical mind. So tell me, what do you know?
Is that a question directed at me, or is it is
Definitely
it
you.
just?
I'm talking directly to you.
Okay. Well, it's been in the making for some time, and let me just say, kind of as an overview, it's actually in the American DNA. This is not just a church thing; it is in the American DNA.
Okay.
That goes back to the doctrine of discovery, 15th century stuff. That when the Pope was asked when and if we meet people in other lands as we branch out into discovery, what should we do? And
And discovery's conquering, right?
yes, let me read real quick if I could. And this is um, from the papal bull of let's see, this is 1452. Uh, Invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Syrians and pagans, whosoever, and other enemies of Christ, wherever placed, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held in possession by them, to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself, his successors, the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and to their use and profit. That is the ideology that brought people to the shores of what we now call the United States, and it was a religious worldview.
Let me stop you there and invite Ray in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Ray,
Hi.
how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Ray meet Tim. Tim
Good.
meet Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Tim.
So Tim was just reading for us, and so jump in when you can. But that sounds very Old Testament to me, Tim. That
It
sounds
is.
very Jacob and let's conquer everything and let's do all
It
of that.
is.
So how is that the gospel? How
It's not.
does
It,
prosperity? Well, it's not right.
it simply is not. And what's happened is, though, it got embedded into our legal system. As a matter of fact, and we don't have time tonight, and I don't go rabbit chasing, but some of the most late decisions by our Supreme Court within the last 10 years still appeals to that as a precedent. And it also recognizes it as a Christian document. This stuff is embedded deeply in our DNA. And how we got from that to what's happened the last quarter of a century in regards to an official prosperity gospel, there was a leap, but there's a rhyme and reason behind that too. But I don't want to take up our entire time. So,
Ray, what do you say about it?
Well, one of the things that has bothered me about it, it seems like you've got ministers with living in palatial estate parsonages while the average parishioner can't find two mites to rub together. Okay, it's disheartening. We've seen different campaigns in churches. There was something in the 80s called Seed Faith.
Oh, I remember
where you
that.
were supposed to put this chunk of money into the collection plate and then
Yeah.
something was supposed to happen. But all you ever hear from people is their hits. You don't hear their misses.
right.
And so, and I think that the whole person's experience is both. So you might have someone with, say, they put in a couple $1,000 and then got an inheritance, however that came together for them, of 20, 30, 40,000, really sometime in a very short period of time after that. So then they're held up as the example of how this is working, how God's moving in this person's life. But we know where inheritances usually come from. I mean, somebody had to die for that to happen.
It kind of
for them.
reminds me of a campaign for Vegas. You know, you never hear about the losers. You only hear about the ones who hit it big, and you can too. Let me go ahead and clarify some things. I don't understand the purity the prosperity doctrine, or the purity doctrine for that matter, the prosperity doctrine, because to me it is antithetical to what Jesus taught. However, I was raised with the belief, I'll say, in tithing. I have had wins according to that. I have many stories. I could take up an entire hour just with the stories of the times that I have said, okay, here's all I have. I'm going to give it to you. And it came back to me in tenfold in some way within a very short amount of time. Now, having said that, in my opinion and my belief system, they are two different things. Tithes were historically, as well as should be now, not given to support a luxury lifestyle of the pastor. It is given to the needy, the poor, the misaligned, the
Yes.
marginalized, all of those things. Islam is very big on their alms and giving to the poor and to the needy, and not
Correct.
doing palatial mansions, $100,000 cars and all of those things. I think that it has been infused with capitalism. And it was an epiphany that I had within the last 24 hours about how I started doubting capitalism when I left my evangelical churches. And it was interesting to never have seen that alignment until then. I'm living in a situation where there are homeless everywhere. I'm, getting acclimated to LA, and it breaks my heart. Those are the people that, in my opinion, we should be giving to, not Joel Osteen, not to buy a new jet, not to buy any of those things. Because Jesus literally addressed this and said, leave all your belongings and come and follow me. I cannot reconcile the prosperity doctrine and that. Tithing, I think we should all do. Again, in a different form than what most see today. Go.
Well, if you use the Christian scriptures as the matrix for the establishment of faith in life, which is historically, classically, a belief system, and I don't disagree with that, by the way. The scriptures, if you're looking at the Protestant scriptures being 66 books of the Bible, and even if you were to include the Catholic Apocrypha and so forth and so on, it's kind of immaterial for the point that I'm trying to make here. But it has an organic story with it. And what is very clear, and I promised myself, because it doesn't do any good to come on and just quote a bunch of scripture, this, that, and the other.
No.
But the whole of the Christian scriptures warns against riches. Mm-hmm. It never warns against poverty, period.
Other than we shouldn't allow it.
Well, and
that's the warning.
Right. As an onlooker or a bystander. Yeah. Correct. Okay. But there's not the warning about poor people as if they're a threat. The threat are those with the riches. And if we were to stand back with history, wars, fighting, murder has always been over the love of money and the things that money buys.
Under the guise of God.
All conflicts eventually go back to that.
Ray? Well, I mean, I participated in some multi-level marketing or network marketing businesses over the years, and it's kind of the same thing. The people that have all the right connections and they're at the gold or diamond or whatever, platinum.
Amway.
Yeah.
That's one of the big ones. And then there were people like me who was not the most outgoing person, and so I don't have all the contacts, and I'm not able to really articulate how wonderful this is when I'm spending a large portion of money on things that there's not any commissions coming in.
Yeah.
And so eventually I would get discouraged and just kind of walk away. And it's kind of the same thing with what's the point of the tithing? What's the point of the offering, the gifts? If this is to like the stock market where we put in $100 on this stock that's trading at $5 a share, and then it goes up to $50 a share, and then we cash out, and we've made a profit. Okay, well,
it's a different kind of profit, though, right?
That's not what people come to. That's not what's supposed to be going on at church. And so that's been my problem with it, with hearing from people that are trying to promote it. Yet if you say anything about to those same people about law of attraction, or if you use the word manifestation, language that you hear in non-Christian communities about somewhat the same thing, then well that's what the devil or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's not working for everybody, and the people that it's not working for need more attention paid to them and less on the glitzy the pastor with the six-figure motorcycle that never gets ridden, that just sits in the outside his office in the hallway, that kind of thing. The spotlight on them needs to go way down, needs to be just dim, and we need to focus on the people that are making the place possible. Okay.
Well, the law of attraction and manifestation is a competing business model to the tithes and the church and stuff like that. So as Ford and Dodge and Chevy have all competed all of these years, I see it as like the same type of thing. Don't go there, buy from us. And it's just sick. In the ancient days, it was required to set aside 10% of your crops so no one went hungry. Someone could come and eat from your crops, but not take anything with them. There was not allowed any greed, but the poor were taken care of. Now, under this business model, under this capitalism, the poor are shunned. The pastors are looked at as blessed. The bigger the congregation, the more blessed they are. And I bought into this for so many years until someone, it was actually on social media, said to me, well, how come the people in sub-Saharan Africa aren't blessed?
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And now that's what I always check myself against. What makes me better or more blessed than someone else? And that kind of like turns my stomach, because it again removes the equality. It says that someone who is poor is bad. It adds all of these negative connotations. Well, you're just not believing right. You're just not, read your Bible more. You don't have faith. You're not walking the right way. And all of a sudden you become the wrong person because you're not blessed. And there is no unity. There is no love. There is no compassion in that. There is nothing that I have ever seen in the Gospels, even with Paul, who I am not a fan of, doesn't justify something like this.
Correct. Exactly.
So how Joel Osteen, how, all of them. I really, really, really wish that someone would have come on, because I have these questions. And of course, Joel Osteen is not going to come on my show. He barely even did Oprah because he doesn't want to be challenged. But yes, this is exactly what I was saying. I would guess that that's Zenker. And again, that is the antithesis of the Gospels. For it's to have wealth was not. I mean, Solomon's wealth we have, David's wealth we have some of those wealth, but still they were told to take care of their people. So I still don't understand, unless God has become the almighty dollar, unless we are back to that golden calf.
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see any other way around it. And the fact that there are mega churches purporting this and preaching this and shaming people really bothers me.
Well, there was, I'm trying to remember. I'll tell you what, Tim, if you have something to say, let me think about what.
No, it's fine.
Point.
Please.
I don't remember what particular MLM pyramid thing it was. Might have been Amway. But anyway, in amongst evangelicals, amongst Christians, they were saying that God wanted you to hit the top cornerstone of the or capstone of this thing, so that once you were rich, you could your alms would be so much more. You would be able to give, say, like hundreds of thousands, as opposed to the 10 or 20 that you, even if it's that much, that you were able to put in the plate for this week. That's just.
I think it's backwards. I think it's not, instead of, it reminds me of the 3-card money. You're going to be able to get it because, like, the only reason I want wealth is to have more change, to create more change. I am not giving away what I have on the grounds of doing that, though. If I had the funds, that's what I would do with them. But that doesn't make me not blessed because I don't have the funds at this point and can't do it. So when they add that caveat, it does become an MLM. It's, push more, sell more, pray more, faith more, what is that? Ha 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 ha. That thing that's going around, with them doing that. It's
as Christ said, they already have their reward.
That's correct.
I mean,
that's it.
If the things that I do for people, I don't talk about.
Exactly.
Like if I give money to something at the grocery store and they want to write my name on some shape and cut out of construction paper and tack it on the wall, I tell them no.
Correct.
I just said, here's the money for this cause, but I don't like telling people what I'm doing for others.
Because then it's ego driven.
And so I don't talk about it. When if I stop to help somebody, I don't talk about it. I when I was on like Twitter and all that, I wasn't posting on social media about it. This must have been over 20 years ago. At the church I was attending at the time, we had a man who was he just had a few months to live. He needed help. They asked the men of the church to come and take shifts on the weekends, basically camping out in his bedroom so that we could help him when he had to get up during the night. And somebody brought up a blessing, but that God was going to bless me for doing this because I had to sign up. That's why people knew about it, because I had to put my name in the hat. So, and somebody brought up a blessing. I'm like, I'm not doing it for that. I'm not doing it for. I'm not even thinking about God. This is a person has this need. I'm fulfilling the need, and that's really my best attempt at worship. And I'm not asking for a blessing. I'm not asking for a tenfold or 100-fold blessing. I'm just taking care of what needs to happen right now for this person. And I really resented I still, when I hear it, I resent the blessing talk about stuff like that, because it's I think our best service to God is when we're taking care of each other, when we're taking care of the things that we have here. We take care of the environment. We take care of, we don't kill the habitat for wildlife as much as we do, and things of that nature, and not holding ourselves up by the scruff of the neck saying, look what I did. And that's what I think is involved in the prosperity gospel. I mean, during Whitney Houston's funeral, and I would have to find the clip, and this piece that I'm going to tell you about may have been deleted. I don't know. But one of the Winans, the oldest brother, I think, pastor, did the eulogy, and he led with it was like a 90-second defense of the prosperity gospel right at the beginning of this. And people are here because they're mourning the loss of this singer who meant a lot to touched a lot of lives through her music. And you before you even talk about her and her life and what she meant to you and means to so many people to this day, you start with the prosperity gospel. Why?
Because it's a religion of reciprocity as opposed to unconditional.
If it's so
charity, compassion, and any of that, it's a business. I mean, if anything, I'm being more convinced of that just through talking this through. It really is, I'll give you something if you give me something in return, as opposed to, again, just helping our neighbor or helping our brother.
I mean, it's
transactional. At its very basis.
And that's so parasitical. I mean, that's literally what Jesus spoke against.
If I may interject a few things here. First of all, Amway comes up a few times. That is owned and operated by the DeVos family.
Yep.
So that will give you an idea of just what we're talking about. And this is kingdom building. That means power and corporate life. And that is what the evangelical church is built on. It is no longer the religion of the Mideast, of the meek and lowly Jesus. It is the religion of Fifth Avenue. And it's built upon the business model. They don't deny that. And so as a result...
No, they say it's God ordained.
Yes. And as a result, they insist on having what? Their own theaters, their own sound systems, multi-millions of dollars of sound system equipment, lighting, effects, everything else. When it comes to gyms or swimming pools, it's the churches. This is completely contrary to the gospel. If you want to talk about the gospel, Jesus went out to the common people. Why don't you get your ass out and go to the YWCA instead of building your own gymnasium at First Yeehaw Church? You know, the same thing with music. Why don't you go to the clubs? Why don't you support local music? Why don't you support the symphonies? Go out. They're already there.
Business models.
It's not the good business model. And this is why it is a fakery with a capital F. And anyone that supports that, I don't care where they are along in the spectrum, they have bought into the lie that somehow God has ordained and blessed and baptized capitalism at its worst, built upon the backs of other people. Because we've done that to Native Americans, we have done that to Afro-Americans, and we've continued to do it to the poor of this country this very day. They're parasites. So they are parasites operating on the poor lives of other people that are just waiting for the next break.
In thinking about all of this, something came across my feed today that said, imagine having the worst day of your life, being homeless, having to beg for food, and someone comes over and wants to take a picture so they can give you food.
Yep.
And what do you say? Because you're starving. You're going to be further humiliated. You're now going to be on social media as an example of what this person did, how this person's living, and you just expose them on their worst day.
Yep.
And that really, it turned even further people into a commodity, into part of that business model, part of that greed. I mean, it was, I have to, all of this is coming from white Jesus, because Middle Eastern brown Jesus wasn't a capitalist. He didn't have an AR. He wasn't going to, I mean, the newest thing is that Jesus totally would have hung out with Nazis. I keep seeing that everywhere. He's okay with everybody now, and no one is wrong. As opposed to him saying, no, this is what's wrong. It's just being clouded over. It's being marketized out. This is the Jesus we are creating. He has a crown. He's rich. He has a Rolls and lives in Beverly Hills right around the corner from me now.
And you got to remember that 6 years ago, and I'm going to keep an arm's length at this, but right after January, we were told in no uncertain terms that there is alternative truth, and what you see, what you hear, and what you experience is not the truth. I'm going to be the one who purveys to you what reality is. And we lived under that for a number of years. So all of this has brought this to play on the national stage. This is not hidden anymore, and it is a serious, serious thing. I am surprised that some of these mega churches have actually endured through the pandemic. I'm not sure they have entirely, but
Well, that's why they sued. That's why they said you better get here.
that's
You
correct.
trust
Good
in
point.
God, not in science. I mean,
Yes.
just when I think our current times can't align any further through to the times of Jesus and in the gospel, something like that happens. We
Yes.
get a plague. Something like this
Yep.
proves that we have not grown as a people in more than 2,000 years because we're
Right.
doing the same shit that Jesus preached about
Right.
back then.
Right.
Saying, stop being a wealth, stop being greedy, stop having all of those things, just love. And that's a political statement at this point.
Well, and as I said at the outset, that it's in our DNA with the doctrine of discovery. And then in the 1800s, the big push west came the manifest destiny that really believed that God is on our side to conquer the lands and to continue to move westward. And by the way, that was the tipping point that brought about the Civil War. And that was more states, were there going to be slave states or not? That's what brought that into play. And then, of all this is in the DNA playing in the background. In the 80s, you had the theonomous movement come, shamefully enough to say, out of the Presbyterian Church. And I still have the war wounds fighting these guys. But there were excommunications and dealing with these people. We finally chased them out with a stick, but they kind of went into the woods. Rousas Rushdoony and Gary North, these others that were economists. But they said that we need to build the economy and also took their cues from the Old Testament. It's an entire system. They finally vacated it, and guess who came and picked it up and played with it? The Baptist and the Pentecostals.
Of course they did.
And that's why we are where we are today.
Well,
They don't have a clue what they're doing, but it's a chainsaw in the hand of a 5-year-old.
Back in the 80s, the singer-songwriter Ray Stevens, who he's more famous for this song called "The Streak,"
Yes,
from back in the mid '70s. But he was on Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show when back the original when Johnny Carson was there. And the title of the song that he sang that night was "If Jesus Came Tomorrow, Would He Wear a Rolex on His TV Show?"
there you go.
It was right towards the mid to late '80s when some of the big names at the time were starting to topple, Swaggart and those guys. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at seeing two different things. I was looking at, well, there's this Jesus that we were taught about in church, and then whatever was going on in the media, between the media and this John Wayne. In fact, there's a book out called
That's
Jesus
right.
and John Wayne.
Yeah,
this burly badass, like the Rock, or some big person is
gunslinging Jesus.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's a disconnect here, and I know I'm not the only one who sees it, but it seems like the lion's share of people are just right on, just in step with this idea. I call it the big money gospel. I mean, I kind of track it back to the name it and claim it preaching.
But isn't that why they thought that Trump was sent from God, was ordained, was anointed because he was so wealthy?
Yes.
I mean, that would equate to their savior. To find someone of that wealth on their side, he must be uberly blessed because of his wealth. And so that kind of fit into this doctrine, right?
Well, who was blessed, the rich man or Lazarus?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
who got the blessing in that
Very good.
Situation?
Well, see, and that's what drives me crazy about this, because I mean, I know there's been arguments going on forever about slavery and patriarchy and misogyny, and there's verses to support that. I can't think of or know of anything that would support this doctrine unless it's completely manipulated, taken out of context, somehow, some way. I just can't. I mean, we could go for hours and go, this verse says no, this verse says no. I mean, and just continue to go. We've got 66 books. I'm guarantee you most of them cover it. I don't know how it's justified.
Is it all hanging on Malachi? Because that scripture, that passage, was whenever the minister would preach the tithing sermon, it was always, he went straight back to Malachi, and it was really. I mean, he even brought some of us up on stage to talk about how we'd been blessed since we sort of tried out this tithing thing. And it was just really, unless you look at other factors, like, okay, you've been able to pull this off and you're saying it's all from God, but is that taking into consideration the two jobs that you're working and the job your wife's working and the some other money that's coming in from different things that allowed you to be able to afford this this house in this neighborhood? What I mean, it's not like in the fantasy movies where you have the person who just kind of holds out their hand and a gem appears. And that's kind of that magic idea is kind of factors into this, because it looks like we're instead of loaves and fishes, we're just supposed to have $2 in there and then just dump the basket, and it's just thousands of dollars coming out.
Well, I guess what you sow, yes, as you reap, the which fits into the law of attraction, which physics, all of that could be twisted. But again, it's not helping. I mean, I hear all the time, well, Osteen doesn't make any money at his churches. It makes it off of books. But he wouldn't sell a single book if he didn't have that church, if he didn't have those series. So, I mean, that's twisted in and of itself. I can't see a justification. I mean, maybe it started with Billy Graham, the classes and the sex and stuff like that actually started with Noah. But I mean, in modern day, it started with Billy Graham saying God's going to take me if I don't raise $1 million back in the 80s.
No, that was Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts.
Right. Yeah, it was Oral Roberts.
So, I mean, at that point, then
and I'm sorry we didn't take him up on that.
Money's the blessing. It's, and Anna's going off on here, saying about, they had the permission to tap into this greed, to feel these types of things. It is greed. And like I said, I just don't understand how someone could. I mean, it's the height of hypocrisy to me. It's, to say that I am a follower of Jesus and I have a $10 million mansion, or a Ferrari or a Maserati or something like that as they walk by the homeless on the streets. I cannot reconcile that.
If I may say, Anna put up a really good statement. That's a simplistic means of apologetics for greedy preachers, and it is.
Yep.
Trust me, these guys do not really want you to read your Bible. Trust me, they do not.
No.
Trust me.
Yeah.
And as I said from the outset of the program, the scriptures have an organic story, which is a historic redemptive narrative, okay? And whether or not that you believe it's literal, true, or whatever, you can still take the same essence from Greek and Roman mythologies. But the point being is you cannot take one passage out of Malachi and build an entire system on it. That is
Yeah.
absurdity.
They
It
did,
is
though.
absurdity.
They did.
Yeah, of
But
course, and they will continue to do so. Why? Because people don't read their Bible. See, I have a theory that people talk about doctrine and this, that, and the other, and even deconstruction, and I respect all that. But I'm telling you, the fact is that the church vacated theology and doctrine about 40 years ago. People quit reading their Bibles in an organic sense, that there's a whole made up of many parts that are moving to make a sensible story out of it. That's been vacated for a generation. Uh, Christians today, evangelicals, have no time for hermeneutics, apologetics, theology. It's not even to be heard. And as a matter of fact, a lot of seminaries are removing this from their curriculum because people are simply not interested in it.
Well, and isn't that, irony? Because the Protestant movement was a literal opening of the books.
Oh,
They
yeah,
wanted the common man
correct.
to read the
That's
Bible,
right.
not, have all of this. And now everybody's
That's
like,
right.
nah, let's just say what they have to say. Let's do it that way. Um, that's lazy thinking, right? It
Oh,
goes back to
it's with a
just
capital
complete.
L.
Yeah. Ray, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, I think both, because I converted in 83, so it's getting close to 40 years. But I didn't. I mean, we had the big thing was they encouraging you to tithe out of the gross instead of the net. And I kept telling people, look, render to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and render to God that which is God. He made a distinction there, and so I had a problem with the whole gross versus the net thing, when there were times when I couldn't get everything paid if I did that.
And that's not the way it's supposed to be.
But it just really, once I started to mostly on the was it TBN, and I started hearing these the ministers with the when the, I guess, prosperity gospel doctrine was in its infancy, name it and claim it and all. I didn't. That just wasn't
name it and claim it. Wow. Yeah.
I never really tried that. We had that guy with these little, what it looked like was muslin cloth that somebody had taken some pinking shears to and cut out little business card size squares, and this guy was blessing him, and then he was going to send them out, and you could stuff this in your wallet with all the other receipts and junk. And this was supposed to multiply your money for you, and and I hadn't thought about it as competing business models before. I find it, for the people for whom it doesn't work, it's disheartening, it's discouraging. You just feel like it's kind of like during the gold rush. Well, at least there was gold, but during the gold rush, at a certain point, you had to kind of dump your pan out and move to a different stream. That's what they call people try to call the homeless panhandlers. This was the old school panhandler.
Right.
And eventually, there's just no gold here. We got to get up. Belief aside, we got to get up and move to another spot so we can shake out whatever's there. And so it's just, I don't see how it's helping a very few. You see these cars driving around, Mercedes with a vanity plate which is a curious name for this, with a vanity plate that says tithe on it.
Or blessed.
Yeah. And so, but that's a very it's a minority amongst the people, and the most of the people they've got bills. They're trying to pay these insane college loans back. And some people in my situation, a lot of times I just didn't have 10% every paycheck. It just wasn't, the numbers just didn't work. And it just really was discouraging, because let's just take it a little bit deeper. So then you'd get people who would bring up demons. They would say, well, if you're if you can't, well, of course there's this other stuff, demonic activity going on, and that just adds a completely unnecessary layer to something that's already hard to deal with. It's really when you're struggling financially, you give what you can, and at least the God that I thought I came to understand would appreciate that. It isn't sitting around with a ledger going, oh, well, nope, you didn't get you came in at 9%. We're going to cancel your
Sending letters. Yeah, the accounting systems, where I've actually seen pastors send letters and say you're not up to this year's goals. You're not, your services are going to start being hindered. Yeah. I look at it, I always try to make things simple and kind and compassionate. So whenever I'm looking at this type of thing, I say, who needs it more? And if I need to eat, or someone on the street needs to eat, that is so much more important than a pastor paying his $40,000 mortgage each month. That's where my values are. If the tithe was supposed to be there to help people, that is how I was taught, even in my screwed up evangelical thing of all of that. It was, if someone has less than you, that is who you give to. It didn't include the pastors. It didn't include the churches, even though it was an evangelical Amway. In moving, I found an Amway window cleaner. And I was saying to my roommate, we got Amway window cleaner that will literally outlive us. And that was part of the business transaction back then. But the tithes were supposed to go to help the people. And that is because it was Christ-like, it was all of those things. And now, like one of you said, they literally brag about it. They literally come out and say, yes, you too. But when you said what was it? The claim it. That's why my mom wrote the VCR model numbers down in her prayer diary. That's why she wrote everything material that she wanted. I completely forgot, why would she do this? That's why.
Well, again, it goes
God
back
cares
to this,
about which VCR you get.
This kind of transactional thing. In other words, you do this, and this is what you'll get in return. And again, what puzzles me is that if we really did have a guidebook, and I'm kind of being sarcastic here,
yeah.
that warns us that, no, you don't do that, because it's already been done before, and this is the effects of it. But what I'm going to appeal to is this. Two people I've already brought up the indulgences, and Johann Tetzel is the one that brought that into great popularity into the church. That was, if you give so much money, you'll be able to spring people out of purgatory. You will be able to buy your way out of purgatory. There was this whole list of things, all right? And as you see, love him or hate him, Luther went after him with a vengeance. And my point is, if you read Luther's works against indulgences, you won't be a part of these mega churches and their prosperity gospel.
The key is
Because,
read.
because what happens is, it's like if you pick up a bottle and it has a skull and crossbones on it, you have enough sense to know you don't open it up and drink it. This stuff has already been done before. It's been done thousands of times over hundreds of years. And if we would just get off our lazy asses and read history, you would know you don't get into this stuff because it's already been exposed. It's the same arguments, and the same arguments against it hold true even to this day. These people are lovers of money, and love of money is the root of all sorts of evil.
So isn't that part of their grift, is to encourage not reading it?
Yes, it is. It is to
to
distract you.
encourage the ignorance?
And if you do read it, you're not reading it right.
Yes.
Okay. How many classes on theology come out of the name it and claim it churches? There's just no such animal. How many classes in hermeneutics or apologetics? There's no such animal.
No.
They'll say something like, knowledge and wisdom is prideful. But buddy, they'll want you to use that knowledge and wisdom to go out and make the almighty dollar.
Greed
and bring it to their church.
Yeah.
I
mean, that was one of the things that I really appreciated about Islam, was that to this day, they have stuck with their alms of giving.
That's right.
And when I interviewed my Muslim friend and asked her questions about things of why she enjoyed her faith, why she did these things, that was at the top of the list, is that she looked forward to that every year because it not only united her family, unity, it also gave to the poor. Yes. So, you have these evangelicals going, oh my God, stay away from Islam, stay away from Muslims. And they're more Christ-like than most of the theology that they're teaching.
All the Muslims that I know are the most Christ-like people I have ever met. Period.
Yeah, I met a Muslim boy yesterday, and as I was describing him to someone, I said, well, he's a typical, Muslim boy, and I kind of got the side eye, and I was like, he was meek, he was kind, he was compassionate, he was well-spoken. That's the typical Muslim boy, as opposed to, all of these entitled, give me money, give me wealth, as I am blessed attitudes. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, we're real good at making enemies around the world. And I understand why. I would hate us too.
Yeah. Yeah. Ray?
Well, I realized, I guess sometime last year, that just how twisted the dialogue is in conservative circles, at least, about Islam. We're told the reason that the people who you're going to work with, that you're living next door to, that that you see in the stores in different places, who aren't trying to kill you, are the bad Muslims, and that the good ones are the ones that are what they get called terrorists. And I was listening to a podcast where a Muslim man was talking about he was an exorcist, and he was talking about he was reading from the Quran, quoting scriptures to this person who was possessed, and they didn't call them demons; they called them the jinn that was possessing this person was responding to the Muslim scripture the same way that the demons respond to ministers quoting the Bible. And I realized, okay,
this picture does not look right. Exactly.
I realized, okay,
very good.
We've been lied to about Islam.
Correct.
But it's, I just feel like
Again, competing business models.
the money, the money that's going to to maintain all these structures and all these things, a little less house and a little less car,
Yeah,
could help your community a lot. And that I think that just keeping these things afloat is what's uh, a burden on everybody.
a parasite.
Well, and COVID really revealed that too, because
Yes.
I mean, it was a matter of come back to church, come back to church. When Jesus preached on the countryside, church would have been
Correct.
fine. The problem was a closed building. Their problem was they weren't getting paid. It was really obvious to me as soon as they started saying, I mean, and then it switched to, okay, now I'm going to do live streams and make sure I hit that donation thing, that banner every minute so people can still keep paying me. I understand it's a job. But if you're living in a situation that where you have a 10,000 square foot mansion that's not housing the homeless, that's not taking care of single mothers, that's not doing all of those things, we saw it with Osteen after the hurricanes. To me, that is pure greed. That is pure antichrist. I'm not saying they are the antichrist. I'm saying that their doctrine is antichrist.
It is.
You cannot reconcile the two. And Jesus was really clear about this shit.
Very clear.
It wasn't like, well, you know, he did speak of eunuchs. We don't know if he addressed the LGBT. No. Jesus' shit was all about this. He was killed for this. And now these people are on TV. They're promoting everything. And we're getting judged because we're not driving the cars, because we're not blessed if we do that. To me, it's the ultimate corruption. And it also feeds into the political arm, which was also supposed to be separated, not only by our Constitution, but also, again, through Jesus.
Correct.
Keep Caesar over here, keep God over here.
Yep.
And all of it is just one giant big cluster at this point.
Yep. Yep.
So how do we influence it from? I mean, how does the base of the pyramid influence the capstone? I mean, it
doesn't.
As long as the groups like the family and these people get all the all of the broadcast media attention goes to them, not to the church that's helping connect people who have and who need or who have medical supplies to donate, and people who need those. That's not seen as newsworthy to broadcast media, so they're not covering that. But some outrageous statement from some random pulpit in the country is what is the headline grabber, the thing that gets the attention. And as long as that system continues, we're not going to have a well-governed republic or a healthy community at large.
He's making an excellent point here. And if I may build on that, thank you. I think you've brought that into laser focus, because what we have seen on the political stage is exactly what you have described. And they got their Messiah. And I am of the belief that it is systemic. It is built into our DNA. And I'm not real happy to say this, but I believe unless there is a complete breakdown, it will never be eliminated. Never be eliminated, because it's so much in our DNA. We are simply reaping what we've had for hundreds of years sown, and it has not been dealt with. I believe that we need to have a conciliation movement. There is an excellent website that is beginning to address the atrocities of this country, not make America great again when I don't think she's ever been great. And I want to go on record for that. It's been a masquerade from day one. We've been sold a bill of goods, and not until we address what we have done to Native Americans and also Afro Americans will this sin ever be faced, and will we ever put an end to this. Um, that is my view. All these other things are the horrible tendrils that come out of this monster. The name it, claim it movement, the wealth and health gospel, all of this are the tendrils that go back to, unfortunately, baptizing capitalism on the backs of human beings for centuries.
Well, we are at the top of the hour.
Yes.
And I'd like to close just by saying I think the root of all of the prosperity doctrine and all of this is ultimately they're selling hope to a hopeless world. And the more hopeless our society becomes, the more dichotomy between the rich and the poor,
Right.
The more desperate people come, the more hope they need to sell. And that does fill the void, and it gives people hope. So until they see that they're just being grifted, it's not going to change. That hope is being sold, unfortunately. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you guys real quick any last comments.
Just thank you very much, Ray. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was a great wrap-up statement. Excellent.
Ray, I got any final words?
Well, I would just say we were. I can't think of the book, chapter, or verse, but it was just serve in secret, and not that your Father will. I guess I'm adding to scripture here, but not that your Father in heaven will reward you openly, but without any thought of reward. It's not just
do it.
Serve one another, and until we are able to really do that, there's really change is going to be very, very slow, as we're seeing.
That's true.
Well, they should be selling empathy instead of hope.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much.
You.
We will continue this conversation in the VIP. Thank you guys. Were amazing. Thanks for the great conversation. I'll see you on the backside.
Bye.
What another great conversation. We are going to continue in the VIP. So if you are a member, go ahead and jump over there. If not, for as little as $3 a month, you can jump on and have these conversations. It's really kind of awkward asking that after the prosperity doctrine and me doing this, but we all need support, and I appreciate yours. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and please try and walk in love. Thank you. Bye-bye.